You just smashed your microphone.
Dude, I don't like these like shirts because I think rest WWE makes shirts for people that like are fat and they make us look more fat.
There were some pretty big people when we went to the NXT show in Phoenix.
Yeah. Let's go, Alistair.
Oh.
Well, welcome to the Awkward Side Hug podcast.
Oh man,
Lex, who's the show brought to you by, or brought to the fan? Who's the show sponsored by?
How you guys doing today? The Awkward Side Hug, brought to you by Vital Pomona. You could catch them at Vital Pomona on Instagram, www.vitalpomona.com. We believe everyone has a gift. Some just need help finding it. Go check it out. Super dope. Downtown Pomona.
So there was a controversial question that was given to us. So yes, Vital Pomona is part of the show, and my really good friends own the store. But they asked this week for a fourth mic question, why haven't? Because have you been there, Lex? You have.
Yes.
Steven hasn't been there yet. But this question specifically asks, why hasn't Brian gone to Vital Pomona? And I gotta admit, it's kind of a bad friend move that I haven't been there yet. I'll admit, every once in a while, I think, maybe I should go to Vital today. But then I go, I don't feel like driving to Pomona. Or there was a few times that I've been in Pomona, but the store's been closed. Obviously, it's been later at night, or it was like, I don't know, I'd walk by it and nobody's there, which I get it because Vital Pomona is not supposed to be open at 1 a.m. But I have technically been outside the store. But I am going to, and we'll see. I want to know. We'll find out if Vital Pomona watches the show and appreciates our sponsorships, because I will go to Vital Pomona once Vital Pomona follows the Awkward Side Hug on Instagram. Because I looked at the Vital Pomona follow, or the people they follow, and I know some of those people have not contributed to that store. And I know
he's looking at a MC Prototype.
And I know that we've weekly have been telling. Now I don't know how many of our 40 views of people have gone to the store because we said to, but we would like, if the Vital Pomona could follow us back on Instagram, I will gladly show up.
Damn.
And you will have the.
Can you take me?
I will take you. Me and Steven will show up to Vital Pomona once we get that follow back. We'll see. I don't want to create a rift with our sponsors, but because you just brought that up to my attention, so I was like, oh, they don't, which is fine. They don't have to. No one has to follow us. No one has to follow us.
Then we're wasting our time.
But if they could, I'll show up.
And we'd greatly appreciate it.
Like several weeks are gonna go by, and we're not gonna get that follow.
But you see on the next Awkward Side Hug episode, where it's like, all right, so we're brought to you by Ike's, and only Ike's. Unfortunately, we've had a fallout and a falling out.
There's a point. There's gonna be a time where I'm walking by Vital Pomona, and then I'm like, "Oh wait, I'm not supposed to show up yet." So, I'm gonna take the long way around. I'm gonna have to go around the train tracks and go to the other side of downtown Pomona.
Just to get from like the PBW to Saragami.
Like, I'm gonna have to go around that big abandoned building. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not supposed to be there yet.
Yeah, you wild.
So. We got some new polls this week. Do you have them ready, Lex? Because I think I got some ready. Okay, by the way, I'm going to throw this out there. I'm assuming, and this I think proved it, we don't have a huge following on the eastern part of the United States.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure almost all our friends are from the West Coast, California, most likely Inland Empire, Orange County, LA area.
Mhm.
Maybe a couple people in San Diego. I know we have a few in Arizona, but
Shout out to Arizona.
I'm assuming we do not have any on the East Coast, or
Yeah.
if we do, they don't care about being the fourth mic because
Yeah.
they didn't.
Yeah.
Because there's a few questions in our polls that are super West Coasty, and they
Yeah.
got very West Coasty responses.
Yeah.
So the first one was West Coast versus East Coast, parentheses, U.S., I guess. Lex
Just
is
in
like,
case we had any UK followers or
yeah. Imagine like a UK follower like still choosing West Coast.
yeah, he's like, oh, I'll go West Coast, Mike.
We can't even get our sponsors to follow us. What makes you think we're gonna get the other side of the United States?
which I gotta admit, I guess it's not fair to say that too because the Ike's doesn't follow us. I don't think.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't think
you're a major bandwagon to Ike's. Speaking of Ike's, and I don't know if I said this on the last show, but I took my boss to Ike's for lunch, and he really enjoyed it. So, shout out to.
I've never
Ike's.
taken it. I've never taken anyone to Ike's who did not like it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so
I'm the original person who Brian took to. I think who Brian took to Ike's.
that was an interesting one because we went to the one in the Bay, and then Lex for a little bit was like, I don't want to admit it yet, and then like he texted me like 2 days after the fact. He's like, oh, by the way, that was maybe one of the best times I've ever had.
Yeah.
I didn't want to admit it, but I will. I'll admit me and Lex do that a lot, where we don't want to admit the other person.
I thought this was another. I thought this was another faux story.
Oh no, it was just
faux story. Oh
okay,
man.
so the West Coast, according to my calculations, because I didn't do this exactly at the 24-hour mark, but West Coast got 100%. Is it still at 100%, Lex?
15-0, 100%.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
15 people responded. I like that.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
That's almost half our views.
Dang.
That's crazy, dude.
The next one, which is a very West Coasty, In-N-Out versus Whataburger.
And I'm surprised because I've done like a solo poll of this exact question like 2 years ago, and Whataburger won out.
But you have personally people who are outside of California who follow you and not follow you because
get them to follow us.
I'll try. I'll ask them.
You're a citizen of Canada and
dual citizenship,
and you've traveled to different parts.
Do you believe in free healthcare?
Mm-hmm. Pre-show. Hey, let's not get political, guys.
So, but I guess
as the show's going on, Lex's shirt is opening up wider and wider. So by the end of the show, his shirt's gonna be completely. He's gonna be completely shirtless.
He'd be like hanging off my shoulder.
That'd be great. So,
baby, I like it
the way you move on the floor.
In-N-Out got 100%.
Dude, 13-0.
Dude, Whataburger is trash, dude.
So,
I'm sorry.
Let me put this in perspective, and I think I've always had this take on it because I know this is a very important discussion with Lex. But I've always said like In-N-Out is better, but I don't mind when I'm out of state and I go eat at a Whataburger. And it was a kind of a cool thing because we don't have those in California. If they open a Whataburger in Riverside, then it loses every prestige it has because it's not that great.
I googled it just to make sure I was spelling Whataburger right. I think there's one in Riverside now.
I was gonna ask you. So, if In-N-Out, if you had to choose one,
I just picked the city.
That's why I found that so crazy because I was like, dude, like that's crazy.
Because Riverside has everything. Riverside will have anything you're looking for. So,
as a planet.
Seriously. If you had to choose between In-N-Out or Whataburger, and I mean, for the rest of your life, you couldn't have the one you don't choose.
Oh yeah, it's In-N-Out.
You're going In-N-Out, right? So
right. It's
just at the end of the day, In-N-Out is. I don't know.
Well, the thing is, like, there's In-N-Outs. Like, I went to Utah recently. There's In-N-Out there. I know there's In-N-Outs in all like a few other states. I remember in my childhood,
It was only
Mhm.
here.
It was only in California with maybe one in Oregon or something.
Mhm.
So, real quick fact: I recently for work we went to the In-N-Out University in Baldwin Park, and I did the whole tour, and they gave me the whole historic like background and stuff. And In-N-Out is a very, very interesting company.
Yeah.
Really?
Very interesting.
Is it?
What stuck out?
How many stores do they have? Is that what you're
Mhm.
asking?
I was like, what stuck out
what
when you were
stuck
taking
out?
the tour? Yeah.
Do I have to give their secrets away?
Ooh,
No.
okay.
So the
Just name
coolest
one.
thing,
One
the
thing.
coolest thing to me, right? And it's probably because I'm addicted to soda, but the coolest thing to me was in their break room, they literally have like a drink station, like they do in their restaurant. So in their break room, there's a soda machine, a hot chocolate
Oh,
machine, an iced tea,
That's pretty
coffee.
cool.
And so basically you just get a cup and you just fill up your drink however you want, whatever you want in there. And then,
Do they
it's
have the
really,
pink lemonade there too?
yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's dope.
very,
dang, dude. See,
it's very,
Steven's turning on Brian right now.
it's very,
I'm like,
very clean.
ooh, you see me start like
Yeah, you know,
cleaning myself up. Like,
Yeah.
Brian's ready to throw out that application, huh? So, and then I found out that they give out these coins. They're like they look like quarters, but they have the In-N-Out logo and stuff on it. Burger coins is what they're called.
Yeah.
And they hand those out to the first customer through the drive-through and the first customer inside for a brand new store that's opening.
Oh, what?
ooh.
So like for a
Oh.
grand opening, they hand those out. And then also like if a store opens on one of the original owners like birthday, they'll give staff that work there all a burger coin.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and those are the only ways you can get a burger coin. So
Oh, wow.
Do you have
Very
the
cool.
next poll, Lex?
Yes, I do. So,
So
we already
In-N-Out's good.
went.
Hmm?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and then like yeah, in and out for me. And I'll also like eat Whataburger when I'm out there. But
Like,
yeah,
I don't
I would have to
mind it.
choose.
No,
Yeah.
I know.
I'd rather eat Whataburger than eat McDonald's or
Well, the
something.
point I'm just saying the point of a poll is to say which one do you prefer, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean at this point
I don't know what the point of a poll was, but thanks for clarifying. Now we're gonna have more than 15 people next week. They're like, oh, I get it now.
Oh, you see, like,
oh, is that what they were doing?
Why am I here today? Why am I here?
Oh, man.
So much for being nicer, huh?
Yeah.
I'm trying to relapsing.
I'm telling you, man, we never listen to the pre-show. Are the rules? But the next poll. So we got
look really crappy right now. I'm gonna take
your
this
hair.
out.
Ooh, look at that.
All right.
That was wild, dude. You went from Brian to like insane clown posse.
If In-N-Out's watching this, they're look at their next fry cook.
Nice. They give you a burger coin.
I work for that.
Yeah. So the next poll is books versus movies, and this was a little bit more interesting. We had 33% for books, 67% for movies. So that was like a 5 to 10 vote. And
that was interesting.
It was more interesting than the West Coast ones. But yeah, even as an English major, I was like, no, I had to go movies. Like I would prefer movies over books.
I just feel like, in a weird way, like there's pressure in reading books.
Like you have to analyze it, even if it's like pleasure reading.
Or sometimes you zone out and then you have to like reread it. It just feels like it's a chore sometimes. Like, and I get
That's my
like,
worst habit.
it stimulates your mind, and sometimes there is good books. And I'll admit there's books that are better than the movies they make of them.
Mm-hmm. I prefer the book to the movie on Brokeback Mountain.
Come on, dude.
Dude, it was a good book. We got to read it for one of my classes.
Yeah, it's movies. Movies are just like it's a lot more chill to watch a movie, I feel like, even though maybe reading a book's more relaxing. I don't know if there's a difference between the two.
Yeah.
You want to relax and chill?
Relax and chill.
I mean, they have Netflix and chill, so it's basically the same thing, right?
I guess so.
It's like Netflix was invented in like so and so year, like the year before that. Relax and chill.
So, what about you, Steven? Movies?
I think I chose movies. Yeah, yeah. I
I
enjoy
still don't
movies.
respond to them. I just I don't.
I'm not gonna lie. Like I enjoy reading, and I'm reading a couple books now. But like when it comes to movies, like I enjoy going to the movies.
Are they parenting
Mhm.
books?
They're not parenting books, by the way.
I just feel like you just get like in a corner and like read some Tom Clancy or something.
Tom Clancy. Who's Steven?
I'm over here reading conspiracy theories.
The Drake equation.
The Drake.
So
Next poll.
Next poll. So the next one is beach versus mountains, and this was the closest one. This was the coolest one to me, and it was an 8-6 vote. The winner.
Less. 15 people care more about the West Coast and East Coast debate than they do about mountains and beaches.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, one less person.
So somebody saw the mountains and beach one and was like,
nah, get the hell out of here. I'm out of here.
I'm
That's gonna be a no for me, dog. But so it was a 57% to 43%, and beach won out. Beach over mountains by 2 votes. That one was a cool one too. I think I had to go on beach on that one as well, and I like both. I like beach and mountains.
I like the mountains because you don't have to take your shirt off in the mountains.
Well, I guess you can technically, huh? But that would be advice.
I feel like it's required at the beach.
Yeah.
And I always play the part, and then I always have
if the beard didn't give it away already, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, the mountain.
What about you, Steven?
I think I chose beach on that one.
What if you're wrong?
I like if I'm wrong, then I don't know who I am anymore. No, I enjoy the beach because it's warm. It's in the summertime.
You know what they have in Newport Beach?
What do they have?
Ike sandwiches.
Like,
Sandwiches that will change your outlook on life because we're that good. 500 amazing options. Vegetarian, meat, vegan, gluten-free. We got you. www.loveandsandwiches.com @Ike Sandwiches on Instagram. And they have plenty. And oh my bad, they have plenty of locations outside of Newport Beach. They have some in the Bay, Tempe, Texas, Vegas, San Diego, Chino. They have plenty of locations.
They got lambs, brands, potatoes.
You're at least within like a 45-minute driving distance from an Ike's unless you live in like Bishop, California. So, but you have a Carl's Jr. that pays their employees a lot in Bishop. So.
Oh, a lot in Bishop, yeah. Shout out to Bishop. Shout out to Rusty's and McLaren's.
All right.
My favorite's the Matt Cain.
the McCain.
The McCain?
The McCain. So something that happened recently, and I'm sure you could figure out by how we're going to talk about it, is yesterday there was a fight in the UFC.
There's a fight at your house?
There's a fight.
So I was like, hey, I got to talk about something. No, so there was a fight, and the UFC doesn't normally do fights, but there was a fight at this UFC event. So just to throw this out there, the reason we're going to talk about it here, or I'm going to talk about it, is because Lex does an MMA content episode podcast for MMA related things. He usually does it with Jesse. So you guys could check that out.
When Jesse doesn't have a group project.
Right. So you could check that out if you guys are really into MMA, or you guys want to hear more about MMA, or you guys want to hear probably what I would say a more educated MMA content, because I'm an outsider looking in on this stuff. I'm not an MMA guy. I like pro wrestling, but
you don't like anime?
I'm not an anime guy.
You're saying that MMA pretty fast. It sounded like anime right now.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I have like JR lips, like my mouth isn't always open. The words are coming up, but my mouth doesn't open to say it.
Come on, man.
Bad guy. You made me do this.
I'm relapsing. So there was a title match, but the title was the BMF title. And if you guys don't know what the BMF title is, I looked it up a little bit, and it's for the baddest MFer championship, is what it is. It's not even going to be defended, so the winner doesn't even defend it. It's not like something he carries around, I don't think. It's just maybe given to him, saying like, between you, I don't even know who the other guy is, but is it Nate Diaz or Nick Diaz?
Nick Diaz.
So,
I was about to chime in, but okay, let's keep going.
It's Nate Diaz versus some guy in a man bun.
Dude, like, somewhere in SoCal, Daniel's just like punching the air right now.
So what I wanted to throw out there is, and I was going to bring this up because whenever I talk about pro wrestling to some of my MMA people, they don't take it seriously, which I understand why they shouldn't. That's fine. But the reason they don't is because they're like, I like MMA. It's real. It's a sport. It's a competition. It's people are actually fighting each other for these things. And then I like wrestling because it's story-based. It's kind of predetermined. It's more backstage stuff, and it is gimmicky and it's fun. So I've always heard that they don't like that. That's why they do MMA. But really, the worlds collide a lot. And, for example, there's plenty of retired MMA people and people who still fight MMA in pro wrestling. Like Jake Hager in AEW does Bellator. Brock Lesnar just a few years ago still had a UFC fight when he was in his WWE contract. So it's still a real thing. But my beef, I guess, with the BMF title is, to me, it was super gimmicky. It's like what everything I felt like UFC stood for, and I don't watch it. My last UFC fight I ever watched was when CM Punk got his ass beat. But the reason I watched that fight was because he's a former pro wrestler, and I was interested on that aspect. But I feel like the BMF title, it looks silver. It doesn't even look like a real championship. It was presented by like The Rock. So I respect the presentation aspect of it as like a pro wrestling fan. I respect that a lot. But I felt like it was super gimmicky, and it was not what you would expect from you. And I'm sure some people like it, but I guess my gripe with it was like, for a lot of these people who don't like pro wrestling and the aspects of pro wrestling, and then now they're watching this MMA fight for this basically made-up title. And what happens when they do a rematch? Does he defend the belt, or do they make a new one? Like, what us pro wrestling fans have an issue with WWE, and sometimes it's the long-term storyline booking is terrible. And I feel like the long-term storyline for this title is ridiculous. So what are your thoughts, Lex?
So the general MMA community, from what I've seen, has responded super negative to the entire idea from like the get-go, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you bring all of that up because am I lagging?
No, you did for a second, but you're good. Just you're good. You're good. Just go.
Go! I just squatted right now. So it's just like a bunch of like a SWAT team comes in. It's like, no, continue. Keep talking about MMA. Like, okay. They have guns in my face. But the people who work in MMA in like the media and everything, Ariel Helwani and Chael Sonnen and everyone, they're all doing their best to try to back up the idea and back up the belt. So it's actually interesting because it's like kind of the MMA community disliking it for the most part, and the MMA media trying to, like the UFC media, I should say, trying to back up their points, I guess. So so it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like met in the middle in a sense, because there's a lot of people that don't like it now, and there's a lot of people that do like it now, because I would like, in my opinion, because the UFC media have told them like, oh, it's actually, it's a fun thing, don't decline the idea so fast. But yeah, so it's kind of like
not to interrupt you, but I feel like if they had like a main event that was for the heavyweight championship or the light heavyweight championship or something, and then you wanted to do this as some nice little mid-card media attraction just to build like a nice card up, just to kind of solidify the gaps in your card or something, I guess I wouldn't mind so much, because I was like, that's just an attraction fight. while the real fights are still going on. But this was like the main attraction to this card, right?
Yeah.
And that made me feel like it was super pro wrestling. Like, and so it was like in a way I was kind of like, I'm intrigued. I get the media aspect. I get the business. Like, hey, we're not going to have a title match as the main event on this card. Let's do something so it still maybe has a similar appeal. But it's like an empty paper championship. Like, you beat this guy, now you have this random silver belt that just says BMF on it. It doesn't. It looks very WWE. Like, the belt's super gimmicky. It doesn't even look like a world title in a way. I don't know. It's like. It was like it kind of put me like in a weird, like, it was like a sellout kind of thing, but I don't want to be negative about it either, because I appreciate it from being a wrestling fan, but it's like I don't want to come out, but it's like it's that weird, like, if I was an MMA fan, maybe I feel like they sold out a little bit, just to kind of like, you could still have the fight and people might still think the other guy's the BMF dude, but you don't need to have like this title presented by The Rock and stuff like that.
Yeah, because like yeah, I mean, it's crazy because the UFC that Daniel and I went to last, which was the Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier rematch, Nate Diaz fought on the other undercard of the co-main event against Anthony Pettis, and the whole like build up and lead up to that fight is that they were the people's main event, Nate Diaz versus Anthony Pettis, and so it was crazy because like the BMF main event is kind of like a step up from that. You know, it was like, oh, they actually, it was like Nate Diaz saying like, oh, this is going to be for the BMF title, right? When he called out Jorge Masvidal after the Pettis fight, after Nate beat Pettis. And when he called him out, he said this is for the BMF belt. And I guess like the story is Dana, when they started making the match, or when they started the matchmaking for this contest, he kind of brought up the idea, well, how about we make the actual belt? And he was even saying, Dana White, that, oh, like, right when I said that, it would sound like just a dumb idea. But then all the people in the room were like, it's actually a really good idea. And then like they just kind of rolled with it. The fans like loved it, like initially. But then like once it was like, I don't know. I think it's like the hardcore fans that hated it. The hardcore MMA fans hated the idea.
What's your thoughts, Steven?
I think it's a stupid belt, to be honest with you. Like, it means nothing. It's not a title belt.
To me,
it's more of a trophy.
It's more of it's more of like fighting for respect, which they already do.
To me, if we're gonna make the equivalent to wrestling, like, you could say all the wrestling belts are gimmicky, right?
In the end, Brian, I agree with you. Like, it was very gimmicky, very pro wrestling-esque.
It's the equivalent of the 24/7 championship in WWE, because the 24/7 championship doesn't mean anything. They just give it to people, really, and you don't really have build or stories with it. And I kind of feel like this is a similar thing, because this is not canon with the stories and the ladder building to championship matches. This is totally off canon. Like, in a weird way, it's like if you wanted to create like a BMF division, and I don't know how you do that with weight classes, that's a different thing. Like, if UFC is like, hey, we're going to have a division just for the baddest UFC fighters, because some of these guys sometimes lose, sometimes they win, but they still they just still deserve to fight for something, maybe. That's a different thing. But since it was like a one-off thing, you can't even defend it, you can't do anything, you're just basically giving this guy a silver belt that The Rock presented. It seems super,
which is pretty cool, though.
Yeah, but it seems super, like, I don't know. Like, so does that mean you're saying that these two guys don't deserve to be in a division fighting for a real title? They just deserve to be fighting for being labeled the baddest MFer? I think that's how it got translated to me as a casual. I'm not even a casual fan. Like, it told me that these guys came to fight for a real title, so we're gonna make one up for them, and that's how I took it.
Because they were the headline, or what?
Yeah, like, and
they had a fight for something, right?
Right, and like, is it Nate Diaz?
Nate Diaz, yeah.
he's gonna be hitting me up like, hey man, like, he's like, I got another belt, I can fight for you. Like, is there a baddest podcast belt that we could? And
Bad.
what's the man bun guy name? Man guy name? What's his name?
Which one?
The guy he fought. Did he not have a man bun, or did he not have?
No, he just has long hair. Jorge Masvidal.
Yeah, sure. So, Steven, what was your beef with the whole night in general?
My beef the whole night, and I totally missed it because I got tired, was that the boxing match was postponed until after the main event finished. And after the main event finished, they still had to do the anthems and like the tail of the tape and all that stuff and the introductions where they both had to walk in. And I knocked out. And
mind you, these are two different companies.
Right, I was going to say that. Like, I didn't even know this until Steven told me before the show we started recording. So UFC is its own thing. That's MMA, and this is a boxing thing. Totally different things, but they're happening on the same night. And the boxing promotion, television networks, or
it's that new, what is it?
Video on demand thing.
So promotion.
Yeah.
DAZN.
Promotion, yeah.
Yeah.
They totally screwed the pooch on it, dude.
They decided to postpone. So they already put their event out, right? The event is already underway.
Was already over, yeah.
And so basically the fans, you said, were watching the UFC fight on the big screen.
Jumbotron, yeah.
And these two boxers are just lounging around in the locker room waiting for this other fight that's happening on another promotion because I guess the promotion did not want both fights happening at the same time, which I get it, but then you need to time your event better.
Why would you have a fight the same day?
Or if just have your undercard go to a certain time, so you could tell. So when you know that, so if you have to book more fights on your undercard, so when you do have Canelo versus,
here's where
I don't even know Canelo boxed.
here's where it's tricky. Here's where it's tricky because UFC was in the East Coast at Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
Okay.
And the boxing match was on the West Coast in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And so obviously like 9 o'clock, 8, 9 o'clock in East Coast, is early here. But when that fight finished, I think the boxing match didn't start until like 1 over there, Eastern time.
Yep.
But 1:30. They made that decision.
Luckily,
anyways.
It went back to like 1 again. Once it hit 2.
But like that's the decision they made anyways. Like the Canelo fight was going to happen at 1 Eastern time or whatever. Anyways, so in that gap in between where you should have had your undercard at least go close enough to that 1 o'clock spot. I don't know if these are the accurate times, but it should at least get close enough to that 1 o'clock spot. So the people in the crowd, keep in mind, those people in the crowd made that conscious decision to go to this event. So they were not going to watch the UFC thing anyways.
Right.
You did this for the viewers, and these viewers were going to watch it anyways. Because if you're going to postpone it,
well, because think about it, a lot of people that subscribe to that probably watch UFC.
Right. So you should have booked an extra match if you could have, or you start your event 30 minutes later than maybe you thought you would. I don't know. But you shouldn't have a gap in the middle of your event. If you're going to have the gap, it should be at the end or the beginning. Or you figure out a way that your Canelo fight or something goes on before the UFC main event.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just heard about this. I probably know nothing about the inner workings of what happened. But I just heard about it like literally like a minute before we got on today.
Because probably they get for the amount of viewers that they have, because you have to subscribe to this, describe to this. It's not a network or an app or whatever it is, but you have to subscribe to it. And I'm sure a lot of people were watching UFC. And so like if they're not getting as many views, then.
This is my question. Does the fan that was watching UFC, I guess they could look it up real quick because we have technology. But some of them might have watched UFC assuming the fight already happened. Or they might go, I'm not going to invest all this money just to watch it real quick. I just paid this amount of money to watch UFC. Or was this event for free on Plus, or did you have to pay for this?
What, UFC?
Yeah, UFC.
I don't know. I don't watch
pay-per-view. Yeah.
So
what does a pay-per-view run?
Dude, and this is like a whole other like topic and discussion too. By the way, like the pay-per-view ESPN Plus subscription that UFC is doing, it's really screwing over like the US fans because it's behind like a $5 per month subscription thing, and then you have to buy the pay-per-view within that app. So it's like, and there might be like one other charge on top of it, but it's behind so many paywalls now. But that's just for like the US, I guess.
But how much does it cost to buy the pay-per-view?
It's like $40 to $50, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. 40 minimum.
So
you subscribe for $5 a month, and then on top of that, the big, huge events,
yeah,
you pay an extra 40.
The selling point is
so.
you pay $5 and you get the fight nights, and then you get all the extra backstage content and all that stuff.
I guess that's not too bad because the pay-per-view used to be like $80, right? $100.
I'm sure
that's more for like the big boxing ones. I don't know if UFC's ever gotten that high.
What are they, like $60?
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not necessarily.
But can you
sure.
imagine if they put every single thing as a pay-per-view, and you had to buy it? Like a $5 subscription is not.
That's why I'm thinking like maybe there was UFC fans that decided like, I'm going to pay for boxing today and not UFC. But I feel like the odds of people paying for both, A, and then B, assuming that you still could catch the Canelo fight after the UFC one unless you looked it up. Or because I feel like that has to be a lot of news outlet stuff for you to be like, because I'm assuming a lot of people watch the UFC fight and just assumed, oh, I missed the Canelo fight, let me see what happened. And then you'd have to do your own research to find out the fight still did not happen. And then you're going to have to be willing to pay for it on top of that. I feel like, why wait? Just do them both at the same time. You booked yourself into that corner. Just take it for what it is. Boxing fans are going to watch one, MMA fans are going to watch the other, and then maybe you're going to get that mix of people who want to spend over $100 on fighting that night. To watch two, in my opinion, the Nate Diaz fight was, I think, handled really well in terms of promotion because I watch a lot of ESPN and wrestling, and they were both covered on both.
Yeah.
But
both for both.
Both for both. I don't talk well. And then, but the thing is, I didn't even know Canelo was fighting this weekend.
Canelo.
Yeah. And I watch enough SportsCenter to know that should be happening. So,
but where can you hear more sports talk and MMA talk in general?
So me and Steven are going to start a sports show coming up soon. We'll discuss fantasy football on the show. We're going to discuss sports in general. Sorry, we're not super into golf. That might not be covered. Maybe Tiger Woods wins something, and I'll be like, that was dope. For your MMA though, hit up Lex. Usually Jesse does it with him. We have.
When he's not doing a group project,
right? But yeah, I think booking 2 events on the same day is a little awkward.
Very awkward. Awkward.